Psycho voice. I don't believe you can say for people to just leave, but I don't think it's fair to say to Aboriginal people, Australia's one of the countries that's easiest to go to and just have a good time. Jonathan, I'm 31. I'm a graphic designer. I wanted to see Japan. It's unique in its culture, and I like seeing other cultures, so I really wanted to see Japan and experience it. So yeah, no real specific reason. I know Japan's very different to Western culture. Western culture kind of gets a bit boring after a while. Churches and Christianity and all that. So I was like, I want to experience something. Yeah, I've been to Europe and the UK and a bit of America, and they get a bit boring after a while. You know, it's nice. So like the certain parts of Europe's nice, but after a while, it's like, all right, I want to see something else now. I don't know. Best experience is, I guess, the history. Seeing history. Europe has a lot of diversity per country. There's a lot to see there. It's not got a lot going on. Australia is 200 years old, and at least in my part of Australia, they don't really preserve history very well. They're very used to updating as quick as they can. They don't really have a lot to preserve, at least in Western Australia. So seeing Europe, it's thousands of years of history. It's very nice. United States, I went to California. I went to San Francisco and Hollywood, Los Angeles. I will say Los Angeles is not as pretty as they make it look in movies, obviously. But yeah, when you get to it's, I don't know, America's America, I guess. So far, I've been to a few of the shrines and temples. I think they're really impressive. I think they're really, I don't know, something very unique about them, and very pleasant, I guess is the way to say. It just makes you feel kind of happy. It's all really nice. I guess being an Australian, we don't really have shrines or temples or anything. So we have churches, but that depends. I'm not religious, so I don't really have a purpose to go to a church. I don't like to stereotype. I know people are very different. I kind of grew up being told not to stereotype people. We're all human, so we're all likely to be one way or another, not really sticking to... I've been told Japanese people are really polite, I guess, and so far that's true, but I assume everyone likes being polite. Western countries, like so Europe, some countries you go to, some people can come across quite rude, but haven't had that experience here. So yeah, that's been really nice. The government we have in now is what we call the Labour government. They are very, they're probably so we have two that you can kind of choose from. They're probably the best one of the two, but unfortunately we have Indigenous people to Australia, Aboriginal people. They don't get enough attention or care to what they need. They sort of get othered, and especially when they're the Indigenous people of the country, they deserve to have a say in their kind of, you know, what affects them. They should have a say in it, and unfortunately neither government does a lot to sort of help or promote that. So that's very annoying. And then, you know, typical things that, you know, the government could do more to help minorities and, you know, disenfranchised groups. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the government. I don't think they do enough, but yeah, that's my opinion. Cheeky question. I understand what you mean. So should white people leave? I don't think, in a utopian world or in a perfect, I think that could be a solution for white people to go back and give the land back to, but I don't think in a modern world that can work. I think, unfortunately, the way countries are made up now, you need to work towards a solution that benefits everyone rather than an alternative that, you know, reverses. I think that large portions of land should be given to people that were originally there, and I think more should be able to help them so that they aren't disenfranchised due to the way they were treated in the past. So, for instance, Aboriginal people of Australia or the Indigenous First Nation people of America, the United States, or even to an extent African Americans, the way that systems have been put in place that benefited white people but didn't benefit them, and then now they try to just say, oh, everyone's equal, but you can't be equal if you didn't have a good head start. Like, white people have always had a good head start. So yeah, I don't believe you can say for people to just leave, but I don't think it's fair to say to Aboriginal people, we're all equal now, get over it, because that's not the case. So I'd say knowing English a little bit, like it's fine to know just a little bit. Everyone, I think, most people in Australia, most people in English-speaking countries won't be annoyed if you don't know a lot of English. As long as I think it's the same everywhere. As long as you try a little bit, you're fine. Everyone's more than happy to help you just try and figure out, things there. So don't ever get worried about that. Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess it just depends what you like. Yeah, we have nightclubs. We have, you can go to so you could join sports organizations. Australia is very big on sports. So if you're into sport, that's a thing to look into. Australians love pubs, which are like bars, I assume, like drinking. I think it's all about just being, I think the one thing about Australia is, remember, Australians don't care too much about things. So if you make mistakes, Australians don't care. Australians are very relaxed, we're very slow. We don't really like to rush or take things too seriously, at least me and the Australians that I've known. Maybe there are some. But I think it's just when you go to Australia to remember, Australians don't, if you make mistakes or anything like that, Australians will not mind. They don't take things too serious. Australians like to joke, so any sense of humor, any laughing, that's always welcomed. Yeah, I would say Australia's one of the countries that's easiest to go to and just have a good time. But there is racism in the world, so some Australians can be racist. But I wouldn't say that's the majority of them. I would say that's a minority. I think most Australians are welcoming and love to just meet new people and have a good time with new people. Okay, so Perth, first of all, is known for its beaches. At least in my opinion, they have the best beaches in Australia. Perth is also not very busy. So if you wanted to go to a city in Australia where you could enjoy less tourists, or less anyone really, Perth is good. Sydney is the major city of Australia. So that's where most tourists go. That's where most people go for shopping. They go for the Australian experience. There's a lot to do there for anyone. So if I knew anyone that was wanting to go to Australia, I usually suggest they go to Sydney. Sydney is also next to Melbourne and quite close to Brisbane. So you can see multiple cities at a time. If you go to Perth, you can only see one, really. And then there's Hobart, which is in Tasmania, which is at the bottom of Australia. It's an island. That's not a lot cold. It's a bit more colder, a bit more green than the rest of Australia. But I don't know many people that go there. It's known for having unique wildlife compared to the rest of Australia. And then maybe Adelaide as well, which is the South Australia, but they're all quite near each other. Yeah, I would say so too. I've heard of Byron Bay. I don't know a lot about Byron Bay because I'm from the West Australia, but I do know, yeah, I think it may be hype. I think it may be one of those things that's sort of pushed towards tourists to be like, hey, come visit here. There's a few places like that in Australia, but I think ultimately wherever you go in Australia, you'll enjoy